Well, hello, I'm here with Doug to talk about STEM porn, among other things. And it's
What?
Friday, January 17th. STEM
Wait,
porn. Yeah, let me start with that.
STEM?
Yeah, science, technology, engineering, and math. There is a woman. Uh, I got to find this one. Why can't I find it now? Um, yeah, no. Well,
STEM
maybe I'm not going to talk.
porn.
Anyway, for some reason I can't find. There it is, OnlyFans. There's a woman on OnlyFans called Zara Dar, and she went and got a degree or some job, and then she decided she was making more money as a porn actress on OnlyFans. She said she made more than $1 million, but then she started making science videos and math videos on YouPorn. So you can go there
Well,
and she will teach you about like integrals and stuff. And she says she gets a lot of hits and people are really sort of amazed to find this technology and math information in what's mostly a porn site. And she makes more money there than she would on YouTube or something. So I thought this is stuff kind of fun because they just had Supreme Court hearings about whether red states can require age verification before going to porn sites.
right.
And the Chief Justice asked, is it like Playboy where there's like serious articles in addition to the porn? And the answer is yes. You can learn about integrals in between watching porn videos.
So
And the,
so it's Zara Dar.
yeah, she's a porn actress, but
And wait, but she has a degree in,
she had a technical job of some kind, I think.
oh, I see.
And so she knows some math and science, and she decided to teach math and science on Pornhub, or I mean on OnlyFans. And her videos are popular there. She gets lots of hits. People go to there and they learn about integrals and math and science and stuff.
So are you trying to tell me that they find the area under her curves?
Oh, well, evidently, yes.
So I don't know if you remember, there was a young girl. She was on the Wonder Years and a TV show.
Yeah.
And after the show was over, she went to, I believe, UCLA, got a degree in math, and she wrote a number of books aimed towards kids on, or specifically girls, on how to do math and math formulas, things like that.
Hmm.
And I think like a title of her book was Girls Have Curves,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Not porn, just,
Yeah.
totally acceptable. Something with a D. Danica, I think was her name.
Hmm.
And so this is the next step, the next evolution, if you will.
Yeah, evidently. And I remember there's a few things this happened. There was a woman who was a Cisco engineer and a
Yeah.
professional engineer, and then she quit to be a rock star in a rock band and said this is a better job. And I remember this a few years ago, there's the San Francisco cop who was also uh, making internet porn. And when the San Francisco Police Department found out, they threw her out. They said, you can't be degrading the dignity of the police with this other alternative, with this other activity. And, I'm surprised that held up in court. But anyway,
So wait, did they not? Were they able to fire
they
the
did fire
woman?
her, apparently, which surprises
Yeah.
me. I would think you have the right to do that, but maybe not. I'm not sure. It might depend on the details of your contract.
Yeah, I'm wondering because once you're a police officer, you're sort of quote on duty all the time.
Maybe that was it. And there's also something about upholding the dignity of the office and all that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I know, especially the dignity of San Francisco police. Who are you kidding anyway?
All right, so Sam, because I have to check this out, obviously, for
Yeah.
research. No, so it's Zara Dar.
Yeah.
She had a tech job. She's now doing STEM porn,
Yeah.
which I think that's the best name.
Yeah.
She's on OnlyFans, and where else is she? The other one,
Also, she said OnlyFans pays 4 times more than YouTube. So, I
four
think,
times. Oh, really?
yeah. Yeah.
That's the story.
So she's making a pile of money on OnlyFans. I see a lot of articles about OnlyFans. Apparently, OnlyFans is the place to go if you want to be a sex worker.
Yeah, let me tell you, there's well, and you can do other things as well, obviously. It's not
Yeah.
exclusive. But Um, there are some people that are making a lot of money as like chefs and, do it with DIY stuff and things along
Yeah.
those lines.
Yeah.
But if you're in the porn business and you're the Beatles, you're
Yeah.
making tens of millions of dollars per year.
I think that's true of all forms of entertainment, comedy and rock music and everything.
Yeah,
The people at
yeah,
top make a pile. Most people make nothing.
yeah. Boy, for the for the Santa Monica or Southern California porn industry
Yeah.
of the 1970s, 80s, or when videotapes came out, this is nothing in comparison. This is like this is the Netflix versus Blockbuster, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
Porn.
But
So she makes four times more money than YouTube, and is she somewhere else too?
I don't know.
I
I
thought,
just
okay, I
thought of
thought
it.
you mentioned another site. Maybe you mangled the words.
Yeah, maybe I did. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, what a fun story.
Yeah. Yep.
So, we might as well talk about the TikTok ban,
That's
which
true.
is
It's
to go into effect.
supposedly in 2 days. Yeah, and Saturday on
Yeah.
Sunday.
And then on Monday, we have a new president.
Who has made it pretty clear he's going to bring it back. So I think he'll reverse whatever. If he can, he'll just reverse it.
So TikTok is allowing fans to download all their content.
Oh,
So should the site be able to come back, it would be easy to upload.
that's a good idea. I remember the same thing about Twitter. I mean, if you want to get a copy of your stuff, yeah, so
Yeah.
you move it to somewhere else. And people are moving to the other Chinese one right now, Red something. But
Yeah, that I don't know.
and there's also like American imitations, like Facebook Reels or something. There's American attempts to imitate TikTok, which apparently are complete flops. They're not as
Yeah.
good, and people don't care.
Yeah. 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 You're absolutely right on that.
Yeah.
They're a distant second, whatever
Yep.
the other sites are.
Yeah. TikTok. People say TikTok is great. I tried it a while. I couldn't get any
I don't get
use out
how
of
it's
it.
monetized.
Yeah, I don't really. I guess there's some way to become a paid creator and make money. A lot of people make a living on it. Um,
Right.
I think I'm just assume it's like YouTube, where it's not even worth wasting your time unless you have like 100,000 hits.
Right.
You're
Right.
never going to
Yeah.
make any money. So
Yeah.
I guess you have to make something that really gets a lot of attention. But I couldn't when I tried it. It seemed like all I was seeing was basically commercials, and I said, "Oh, this is not." But I got rid of it. I didn't try very much. But they say it
Oh,
learns
so
what you want and shows you what you want. But all I was seeing was pretty much just sort of ads.
so it's ad generated or ad supported?
There are some ads, and also almost everything you see is in fact an ad from sort of an amateur. Like a whole lot of videos are women that are dressing up pretty and doing a dance move or something, and what they're doing is basically auditioning to become a influencer. So
Yeah,
you're
but
yeah.
where's the transfer of money? Is it ad supported? I mean, ad
There are
revenue?
ads. Yeah, that's why I don't
Oh,
quite.
I see.
There are ads, and I think, and that therefore, just like YouTube, the ads pay, and if you bring in enough hits, you get some of that money.
I see. I see. I
Yeah.
see. I think we brought up somebody not too long ago with Spotify who had something like 10 million listens, and they were able to get well-known band. They had 10 million listens or 100 million listens and got something like $35.
Yeah, and that's what that story about the OnlyFans is. Apparently, OnlyFans pays a lot more, so it's much better to be on OnlyFans.
But do you pay to be part of OnlyFans, or do
Yes,
you
you
know?
have. Well, I think I haven't gone there, but from what I've read about it, people put content up and they can decide to charge you to view their channel. So I think the people set their own price.
I see.
And the
I
more
see.
popular
I see.
people are able to charge a relatively high price and they have a lot of people paying it, and that's how they end up getting millions.
Yeah, got it. Got it. Got
Yeah.
it. So it's kind of pay per. Well, it is pay per
It's pay
view.
per view. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And I
Which
guess
is
they're
sort
paying to
of.
see lessons about integrals now. Oh, if our college is shut down, this would be our next place to go.
Sam, I don't know. Years ago, do you remember the Naked News?
Vaguely. Yeah.
So the Naked News was a
Yeah.
news network that was credible, and the newscasters would strip as they'd report the news.
Yeah, I know that the Russians mainstream news did that for a while. I think that's what started it. They did
Yeah.
in Russia. They observed something. Also in America, people don't watch the news, so they tried to. This was a way to get people to watch the news. Which that's one form of social engineering. Anyway,
I think that's funny.
yeah,
But
yeah,
now we run into the same issue. I got to take a note here.
yeah.
Um, Now we run into an issue with the age verification, huh?
That's of course the huge one. I mean, people want to stop underage people from getting out all this porn, and then how do you do that? How do you find out how old somebody is on the internet? And people are struggling with this without much of a good answer. You either make them upload like a government ID, or you somehow try to use facial recognition to decide how old they are or something. And all these are pretty problematic.
Yeah, none of them have proven to be worthwhile or reliable.
Yeah. So right now, the
But
current situation is kids can watch anything. There's no R or X rating blocking them, and a lot of people don't want that, but nobody can figure out how to stop it.
the we still have the red state, blue states where a number of states are blocking it, right?
Well, a number of states have demanded age verification,
Yeah.
and Pornhub, instead of complying, has decided to protest by blocking those IP address ranges. So if you're in a red state and you try to go to Pornhub, you'll just get a big message saying your state law is unreasonable. Write your congressman. Your state law has made it so we don't dare to present this content to you. That kind of thing. So it's sort
I
of
see.
political protest right now.
So so the smarter ones will just go out and get a VPN and
Everybody is just getting a VPN.
yeah.
VPN use, but of course, so this is actually what cybersecurity is always right. Right? You try to enforce some cybersecurity rule, but when it's too inconvenient, people just find a workaround, and then
Yeah.
you've lost control more than ever.
Yeah. That's exactly what's happened right now. Lost
Yeah.
control.
I mean,
All
if
right.
you, if you, yep,
So, this is interesting. This is, if you ever want to see social evolution, this
yeah,
has to be the classic example.
yeah. There's so many of them. This is why I know when you train cybersecurity workers, you say, don't be Dr. No. If you just say, no, you can't have your own web server, you can't have this, you can't use social media, you can't do this, then people will just ignore you and break all the rules. If you
Right.
make a more reasonable rule that's not so annoying, then they'll obey it.
Yeah. Yeah. Security and depth. So you
Yeah,
have a bar there, another bar there, a block there, and hopefully you've got a secure system.
yeah.
All right. What else you got, Sam? I'll flip it
Well,
back to you. Give me
yeah.
two more stories.
There's an interesting article where some people went and these are researchers. This is on in Sage Journals, and it asks when do parties lie, misinformation, and the radical right populism across 26 countries. So they asked, what kind of people are putting up fake content, and in case anybody had any doubt, it is the far right. The far right creates an incredible amount of outrageous lies and a populism, left wing populism, and right wing politics are not linked to the spread of misinformation. So there is a very common thing I've been seeing, especially now that Trump won, where people try to say, oh, the far left is just as bad as the far right. And that is not true, not remotely true. Um, the really extreme lying is only on the far right. Everybody else pretty much tells the truth. You can be conservative, you can be liberal, you can be populist, you can be whatever the opposite of populist is, and all those people mostly tell the truth. But the far right has this special property of just making up complete garbage, conspiracy theories and science fiction and selling it. And that's across all the countries. It's a wave sweeping the world. Um, I don't think anybody really understands why, but it is nice to see a sort of scientific verification of this fact that there's not symmetry between the left and the right at all anymore. There's this bizarre far right world where they believe all sorts of crazy stuff. And like sort of Alex Jones and before him, Rush Limbaugh. There's a whole population of people living in sort of a fantasy land, like a strange religion where they believe, the government has is controlling the weather and has mind control rays, and they're drugging the food and all that stuff.
Yeah. I've been watching somebody on this on covering the wildfires. There's a new science that's a relatively new science. It's called pyrogeology,
Oh,
or pardon me, pyrogeography.
hmm.
And they study, we have, at least in California, we have about 120, 150 years worth of wildfire data that has now been GIS mapped. And it's interesting. You can look at a map of California and you can see where the different fires were. And by the way, one of the SoCal fires, the Palisades fire, bumped into a fire that I didn't know this was in December, called the Franklin fire. And if it hadn't have bumped into that fire, which had already removed the fuel load, the fire would have kept going. So
Yeah,
previous burns
yeah, I've heard
are,
some articles about
yeah,
this where they say in before humans intervened, there were a lot more fires, more frequent, and we really
yeah,
should have a lot more controlled burns.
yeah. And it's interesting. I've watched these videos where they're doing the controlled burns.
Yeah,
And if you have a grassland area that doesn't have a lot of fuel, the fire literally just creeps along, unless there are severe winds, obviously.
yeah.
But the fire just kind of creeps along, and you can almost walk. You can walk faster than the fire will spread.
Hmm.
And the point being there is that you can have these, is again, no wind, you can have controlled burns in the middle of summer, and they're easy to control. And every once in a while they get out of hand, where they do a controlled burn and the winds pick up. So this is where good weather forecasting comes into
Yeah,
play.
yeah,
I PBS has a story on the Maui fire that they just released, and it's pretty interesting, the similarities between the Paradise Fire and now the Palisades Fire, on how you have law enforcement that are trained that if you see a down power line, treat it as live and protect everybody. So they block traffic. And then you have the fire department saying, get those people out of there, with nobody knowing if the power was on or off. And I've seen videos of Southern California where the firestorm, the embers are just whipping through neighborhoods and all the power is still on. People's Christmas lights are on. And so, there's some truth to this. And now a lot of people in Maui are second guessing the police, saying, you're the one that caused, or government, you caused all these people's lives to be lost because you blocked the roads, and you caused, you know, escape routes were blocked. So, the story would have been different, maybe that people were being electrocuted before the fire came in. So, in these times, right? There is no one right answer, and you can plan for these, but again, you could do all the drills you want. And we just had local city council here, where people going to city council said, we need to have an evacuation plan. These roads should be one way so that people can get out, egress out. And PG&E just set up this where they made a road one way only, and they kind of made circular traffic so they could do some work. And people are stuck in traffic for an hour, hour and a half. And to me, that was a drill, if you would, if they reversed traffic flow and made traffic flow in one direction, and it just made things worse. So I'm not saying I have the answer, and I think the answer is we don't have one.
well, underground power lines is, of course, the answer, but that's really expensive.
Yeah, but underground, yeah, 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 you could do it, but yeah. But crisscrossing the Bay Area are these very high voltage power lines,
Yeah,
and you're not going to be able to underground those.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And those are really
And
dangerous when they come down, if they do. I've never seen those come down, but
well, that's what started the campfire, the one
uh,
in Paradise.
Oh,
And what happens there is the wind blows, and there are these hooks that hold the power lines up. And PG&E, from what we understand, had not inspected those power lines or those towers for 60 years.
yeah,
And as the wind blows in the gold country in the Sierras, those hooks move back and forth. And over 50 years, the metal fatigue sets in.
right.
And if you look at the hook, it looks like it was cut through like a knife through butter, where there's a nice clean cut. And if you look at the tower where the hook is supposed to be, that round hole now looks like an Easter egg,
Yeah,
or
makes
it's
sense.
egg shaped.
Yeah,
So
yes,
that hook breaks, that power line falls down, hits against the side of the tower, which is grounding it. So you have showers of sparks that
yeah,
go and ignite the ground on fire, and then you have a nice fire going there.
yeah, yeah,
And then mix that with the wind and dense population, lots of fuel, and you get the fires that we're seeing.
yeah,
There's a lot of interest. I don't know why I'm interested in this, but there's a lot of science that's going on to understand these fires. And another one is, why does one house survive when everything else is burned around it?
yeah.
And it is kind of interesting. They've videoed it, and you'll see the winds change direction, or that you'll see that somebody has removed the leaves from gutters, things like that. There are a couple things that are real fire
Mm.
starters.
Yeah,
But what the fire department is telling us is to clean brush away from your house so it doesn't start on fire, which turns out not to be true, because we're seeing that houses 60 feet apart are now catching on fire. So
that's
even the distance between houses, a lot of things that urban fire departments are telling us turn out to be all for show. And you have to go to these fire geographers to really understand what's going on. And there was one student from Chico that's studying this that went down to Los Angeles and has all kinds of video footage of the fires. And he's right there in the midst of it, is showers of sparks or just embers are just floating down the road like leaves. And you see him going from one house to another house to another house. So there's nothing really you can do. The also has footage of a house that the lawn was dead. There's no shrubbery around the house because there's been no water there. It's all been pulled out, and that house caught on fire. So even though they did accidentally everything and even more, you lost another house there.
yeah. Well, I think
So
we're going to have a lot more science about this. This is part of coping with global warming. Uh,
yeah,
we're gonna we're gonna have to have more science for making better plans to survive these fires, in addition to the floods and stuff.
yeah, yep, you're absolutely right. And this kind of, this, well, kind of didn't intend to do this, but it'll bring me into another story, which is UC San Diego created what's called Alert California. And I believe that they're on the neighborhood of 3,000 cameras, which are AI enabled, that are pointed in different directions, that are trained to detect fires and do an early alerting system.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And I've looked at the map. It's cameras alertcalifornia.org. And holy smoke, the news, I never knew about any of this. And the statistics are that there were over 1,000 wildfires last year in California, which I was surprised by that number.
Most of them must be
And
small, I guess.
they're vary in size, but there were 1,000 wildfires in
Yeah.
California last year. And the AI Early Warning Detection Network detected 1,000 of them. I'm sorry, out of 1,000, detected 30% of them before 911 calls came in. So,
So
it's not perfect, And what I don't have statistics on is the AI needs to detect the difference between fog and haze and a fire.
Yeah. And the next thing, of course, is after you detect one, who do you warn to evacuate? Because if you get too many false positives, people will start ignoring it.
Yeah, so the camera network did detect the Palisades fire, but not the conditions.
Yeah.
So again, it's AI training. Not, I don't know that we'll ever be able to do that, but
Yep.
you
This
know,
is it reminds me a lot of medical care. Like they keep changing their mind about what cancer screening to do. Uh, there's
right,
tests that don't really help because they have too many false positives. So people run around trying to to do things about things that don't matter. Somehow you can't warn people about 1,000 events a year. That'll never work. You somehow have to
right,
boil it
right.
down to only warning them when there's really a significant danger.
Yeah. So, I don't know when this network of cameras were set up, but it's really interesting. I've been looking at the map, and anybody can log in and see it. And I'm looking at the Bay Area. There have to be over 100 cameras, if not more.
Well, I applaud the collection of data. That's the first
Yeah.
step. And the next thing is to somehow figure out how to use that data.
Yeah. Yeah. California also has Caltrans, and they have cameras,
Yeah.
and they don't record, but you can look at traffic conditions. So, like if you're going to the Sierra Nevadas and you want to see, or Lake Tahoe, you want to see what the road conditions are. I've used those number of times to see if the roads are cleared or blocked, or
Yeah.
how much snow, is snowing. And you get a real time, if you will, update, and you decide if you want to put chains on or not, or if traffic's going to be stopped on 80 or 50 or 88. So, these cameras are, I would argue, are very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
Hmm.
More to come. The other thing I'll leave you with this, with the wildfires,
Hmm.
over the last 5 years or 18, or we'll make it the last 10 years, California has seen the worst fires ever. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
interesting that they've been all grouped together. People are claiming it's climate change. I think it's more that the fuel load as well as climate change. But we've also seen the hottest days in I think ever recorded, right, in
Right. Every
California.
every year is the hottest year ever recorded for like the last 10 years. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, and it's interesting that it's been the last 10 years.
Yeah. Well, that's why they say climate change, we did hit a tipping point and it's much worse than they expected. We're
Yeah,
heating up much faster than the original plans. This is what I remember 20 years ago, the climate scientists said this. It might not just be linear. It might be that there's a threshold. When you go over the threshold, there's a really big change, and that appears to be the case.
I see, I see. So we've hit an inflection point
Yeah.
where it's accelerating, getting worse.
Yeah. And there were a bunch of positive feedback loops they talked about, like once the ice caps start melting, there's various points where you get a positive feedback, and we appear to be in one of them.
Yeah, yeah. So I think one of those, or an example of that, would be in Alaska. There's methane that's trapped in ice,
Right.
and methane is 10 times worse than CO2.
Yeah.
And now that melts, that methane comes out, and so now you have 10 times the
Yeah.
gases coming, or yeah,
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 I think
the
we're going to
warming.
have to use artificial cooling of the planet is the only way we're going to make it through this. And people prototypes, experiments out there try to inject aerosols in the upper atmosphere or something. We're going to have to do stuff like that.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, what's your next story, Sam?
Well, I got some political stuff. So Elon Musk, is going to be really important in America. He's apparently going to be president or vice president or something like that. We're moving into an oligarchy where the powerful rich people control our society. Joe Biden just gave a speech about that. And it is important to notice that these ultra rich people who are powerful suffer from a really serious mental illness. Now, you can see it in Trump. And there's something Trump and Elon Musk are both doing which really baffles me. They make fake applause. They caught Elon Musk using a sock puppet account on Twitter to pretend to be somebody else to praise himself the way Trump does that. He calls media organizations and pretends to be somebody else to like make them think he's richer. And now Elon Musk is claiming to be an expert at video games and publishing videos of him winning like the world's most difficult video game, being in the top 10. And people who play the game look at it and say, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's walking right past the stuff you need to pick up. What he did was bribe somebody who was a top scorer in these games to let him use their account and make a video where he pretends to be like a 100th level character or something. And so this is, I'm just per, baffled by the mental thought here where you put up a fake image and then you make fake people to applaud you. And then I think you just want to be popular. And it doesn't bother you that it's all fake. It reminds me of the way Trump cheats on golf to win his golf games. And I guess maybe they're just doing it so they get the money. They do get a lot of money by being popular. Maybe that's it. But it's it's useful to understand, I think, since these people are going to rule our country now, how crazy they are. And I think the immediate consequence is what you've seen with Trump. All these people go to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring and donate money. If you flatter these people, they will love you and bestow upon you wealth and power. Because that's what they really want, is just to have people cheering for them, even when it's completely insincere and when they even faked that cheering. And like you said, when Trump was in power last time, they said the thing all the staff learned is that he watches TV primarily to see what they're saying about him, and he won't read any paper unless it has his name like in every sentence. He only wants to see what people are saying about him. That's his extent of consumption of information. And it's all about making sure everyone's praising him. And now it's about suing anybody that dares to criticize him. So it's difficult for me to grasp this mindset, but we're going to be ruled by this.
You know, Sam, there was a TV show called Mission Impossible that the
Yeah.
movies stemmed from. But this, you just reminded me, there was a Mission Impossible episode TV show that had this theme to it. It was a dictator, and the applause were all fake. And it turned out the dictator had died, but they had somebody else as a puppet
Yeah.
that would show the dictator, somebody behind the scenes was really running the country.
Yeah, it's a strange situation, and
Yeah,
related to this, the FCC chair has now been trying to stop the incoming president's plans to revoke licenses for broadcast television stations because he disagrees with their content coverage. And so the exiting FCC chair is stopping some of the push of the right to punish news media, but warning that the incoming chair, the replacement for the FCC chair, is going to be a person named Rosenworcel. And the replacement for Rosenworcel, called Brendan Carr, wants the FCC to punish news broadcasters that he perceives as being unfair to Trump or Republicans in general. And so Trump has done this a lot. He wants to sue and put out of business all news stations that would dare to put up news criticizing him. And we may see a lot more of that. So I think we move closer and closer to basically being Russia or North Korea, where you just have official propaganda and any independent news is just removed.
yeah, yeah. This is going to be interesting times, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And the and I do have an article about Red Note. That's the one I mentioned earlier. The TikTok refugees are flooding into Red Note, which is an alternative Chinese networking app. And it's bothering the people in China because Red Note is in Chinese language only, and it's for internal Chinese social networking. And in China, they block all Western media and Western culture. And now 700 million people have flooded into Red Note from America. And the people in China are very upset because these Americans are just sort of invading their area and bringing in all this obnoxious American principles and American culture they don't want. So Red Note is thinking they're going to need to partition their app into an American zone and a Chinese zone that can't communicate with each other to keep the Chinese zone pure from all this corrupting American influence.
Oh, that's interesting. So, how can't they block IP address block?
They could, I think, just block all Americans joining Red Note,
Yeah,
but they don't. And now I think they want the business, but they're discovering it's offending their core.
I
So,
see. So take the money or offend the core.
right. Well, that's why, just like
Typical capitalism.
well, I think just like in America, people try to separate the adult content from the kid-friendly content, and it's the same kind of thing. So,
Yeah. So, Sam, I got a question for you. I want to go back to the Meta or TikTok ban.
yeah,
And it's interesting because if I recall correctly, there was some talk that Zuckerberg and Meta are the ones that launched the attack on TikTok, that they're the ones that fed the news media politicians that there are issues with TikTok and it should be banned. And the reason being is because it was cutting into their profits.
that would make sense. I think it also is the general anti-Chinese sentiment, which has been huge. I mean, Trump was very anti-Chinese. It's become like when I was a kid, America blamed Russia for everything, and Russia was the big
Right.
enemy. Now it seems to be China that's the big enemy, and so just anything from China, we there's a sentiment to just push it out and get rid of it.
Yeah, but just follow me where I'm going. Let's
Yeah.
say that again, hypothetical. Let's say that Meta and Zuckerberg were the ones that were attacking TikTok, all the negative press.
Yeah.
They got the ban enacted, which was a win for Zuckerberg,
Oh yeah,
right? Which would be a huge win for Zuckerberg.
I would think so.
But now Trump announces that he's going to reverse it. And Zuckerberg gave the $1 million to be part of the inauguration fund.
Yeah.
And the question is, will Trump reverse it?
Well, we're going to see, but remember,
Yeah,
Zuckerberg, Trump actually threatened to jail Zuckerberg personally. Trump regard Zuckerberg as having betrayed him because Facebook didn't support him as much as he wanted.
yeah, but
And
he accepted the $1 million.
because Zuckerberg accompanied the $1 million donation with complete capitulation to Trump, saying, now
Right.
you can have all the right-wing disinformation you want. You can have all the bigotry and sexism back on Meta. I won't block anything. I'll do whatever you want. Please don't hurt me.
And isn't that in conjunction of why they moved to Texas?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
gets content moderators to Texas to try to show he's going to have Republican values. And this is, I think, like the other story I mentioned, there is this far right science fiction delusional stuff, which is what Trump's popularity is based on and Elon
right.
Musk's. And they really want to spread that more. They feel like it is to their benefit to cause more and more people to depart from reality and move into this paranoid, conspiracy laden madness. And all the popular companies have agreed to help with this destruction of truth in order to get money.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
So this is, like I say, 10 years ago, I couldn't understand how Germany turned into the Nazis, but now I'm watching it happen right around me. Everybody rich and powerful who should know better is willing to just contribute to destroying our culture to get some temporary money, even though the long run will be the disruption of everything. It's sort of like Trump wants to burn more fossil fuel and end all climate control because you make more money today and who cares about tomorrow?
yeah, yeah. That's kind of the true capitalist approach, which
Yeah,
was what Manifest Destiny was all about, because you
yeah,
mix in God and this is God's will. And
yeah,
specifically, it was in Manifest Destiny for the white folk
yeah.
to take over, that God provided the white folk, America, to rape, pillage, and profit.
Well, and this matches the Protestant Christian worldview where the world is just racing towards fiery destruction and you shouldn't resist that. That's its natural consequences. You just set everything on fire and have a huge crisis at
Yeah,
the end, as
yeah,
opposed to sort of your Buddhist feeling that there should be a cycle and it should just go around and around.
Yeah. So, Sam, let me move on next
Yeah.
story, but I can't get away from Meta because Meta's back in the news again.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you saw this, that Meta, Zuckerberg has decided to cut 5%. You
Cutting
saw the
staff.
layoffs, right?
No, I
And
didn't, but I'm not surprised. Is he going to replace him with AI or what?
no, he's going to rehire more talented people. So they're
With H-1B
chopping,
visas.
pardon?
With H-1B visas?
No, well, that hasn't been talked, but he said they're targeting the lowest performers
Oh, okay.
and they're expected to be laid off, but immediately they're going to hire 5% back of more talented people.
Well, everybody does this. Remember, Microsoft used to have their forced ranking where they had to fire
Yeah,
10% of your staff every 3 months. This is a persistent thing in tech that you want to somehow cut off the dead wood and hire
yeah,
the hot new people. Yeah.
yeah. And, they tried that for a while in education and with teachers in K through 12.
Wow.
And what they said is if you're a lower performer, and they had the stats to back that,
How do you
what
measure
they,
performance?
well, you use standardized tests.
Oh, yeah, that was the whole point of No Child Left Behind and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what the flaw in that was? Was I'm going to point at one person, but a woman by the name of Lucy Calkins that created this bogus method of teaching kids how to read. And for 30 years, people were taught to just look at a word and memorize it, no phonics. And so now we have a generation that's illiterate, and you have high school kids that can only read at a first, second grade level.
Hmm.
For 30 years, we've been doing this, and this generation is still going through the schools.
And so their measurement of outcomes didn't pick this up?
Well, the measurement of outcomes was if you're a teacher and you're good, you should be able to teach a student that isn't even qualified to be in your class. So follow that logic.
Yeah.
And teachers did and were getting fired over that for being lower performance.
Wow.
Now, and Sam, the other part of this is there were bonuses being paid. And if you recall in Georgia, I think there are several teachers and one administrator and that who received jail sentences for changing state tests. That the
Oh, I remember
students,
that. Yeah, the teachers
yeah,
would correct the test to get a higher score for the school. Yeah.
correct. And a higher score for the school meant that they got a pay bump
Right.
and the administrator got a pay bump.
Yeah.
And I believe the teachers are out of jail, but the administrator had a longer sentence and is still there. Imagine being in jail. What were you here for? Oh, murder,
Yeah.
robbery, robbed the bank. Well, I changed answers on a state exam.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that gets much credit in the hierarchy of prisons.
My entire life, it's been the same. Americans are doing badly on math and science, and every couple of years there's a huge reformation in education to supposedly fix that, which never seems to actually make it better.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I'm amazed at when it comes to math,
Yeah.
what students are not capable of doing.
I remember when I was about 10 in like 1969, my father said our chemistry department has discovered that the incoming students cannot like add numbers together like 2 and 5. So we've added a new course called chemistry orientation before you take chemistry, where you solve problems like 5 plus 7, 7 minus 3. And they said they should have learned this stuff in high school, but they aren't. So we're having to compensate in college.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the major universities, 40 to 60% of the incoming students don't have proficient math or English skills.
I've been hearing this my entire life.
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah,
it's worse than it used to be, but there have been huge complaints all my life about it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's my last story.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
we resume, we'll have
Yeah.
a new president.
Yes, we will. We'll be in a brave new world. Um,
That's right.
yeah, that'll be on Tuesday. So we'll have had a whole day to absorb the new regime. And remember,
Yes.
Trump promised on day one a bunch of stuff is going to happen. He's going to kick out all the immigrants and impose tariffs and drill for a bunch more oil, a bunch of other things, and end the Ukraine war. And all this stuff is going to happen on day one. So it'll be pretty exciting on Tuesday to review how Trump solved every problem in the world for us.
Yeah, and Sam, we are somewhat critical of Trump, I would argue.
Really?
So if
How
we're not
could you be?
if we're not here on
That's
Tuesday,
right. I might be in Guantanamo Bay. That's right.
that's right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see what happens.
Sounds
Farewell.
good. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah.